call meeting to order at 10:01. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay. Public comment? Don't think there's any public here. We have the minutes from the September 22nd, 2022 meeting, long time ago. Were you all able to review it? Are there any comments?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Allison. A second? Don't all jump at the same time.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Dwight. Any discussion? Oh, everyone in favor, say aye or just raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes. Thank you. So correspondence, and our first main topic of discussion is a Dover bus stop request at 76 Route 100, which I believe is, I forget the name of that little area there.
Where the apothecary is?
I think it's across from that. Lori, did you want to talk at all about that? Since
It's just south of Dorfitz Road. South on 100 of Dorfitz Road.
is it that little community? Well, not community, little commercial? No.
Yeah.
You're muted, Lori. We can hear you through Dave's computer, not through yours.
Sorry about that. It's a single building. It's down further. They sent me a picture of it. I don't know if I have the exact address, but it's further down than the group of stores there.
Used to be an appliance shop there.
Okay, and a restaurant before that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So any thoughts on that? We do have, I included because Shannon was not going to be able to attend today. She had sent her some comments prior to back in January when this was first sent out. So any thoughts on this, on that stop?
Well, it's not a very good place to have to take a left there. The bus route takes a right at the end of Dorfitz Road and heads north on 100. But to take a left there and then having to find a place to turn around wouldn't be well advised. We'll put it that way. They do have a stop right there at the town offices. I mean, I stopped there. That could be, it's less than 1/10 of a mile from their place, you know. So they could be picked up and dropped off there at the existing bus stop.
Any other thoughts? How about, Dave, how about the return trip?
Return trip is coming south on 100, then we take a left on the Dorfitz Road.
Which would mean if you were to make the stop, you'd have to go past Dorfitz,
Correct. Yep.
turn around, come back, and then make that really difficult right turn.
Yeah, that
onto
wouldn't be
Dorfitz.
advised on that one with a bus anyway, especially that direction.
Yeah. Okay. Those were pretty much Shannon's comments as well. And like Dave said, there is an existing stop at town offices. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions, concerns? This did come from a parent.
I think it would change the direction of the route and it would request a turnaround in a private lot that the town doesn't maintain. So we don't even know what the conditions would be in winter, for example.
And that's always a huge concern.
Mhm.
Well, if nobody else has any thoughts or comments, does anybody have a motion?
What does the motion have to be, Mark? Because I don't, there's a motion to not approve, motion to
Yeah.
not approve, including the Dover bus stop at 76 Route 100 in West Dover.
Yeah, technically you don't want to have a negative motion, but yeah, I think that's what it would have to be.
No, wait, I can motion for that. You can open it up and then it can be put down. So I'll motion to approve the Dover bus stop request at 76 Route 100 West Dover, and then everybody would vote nay to it. Right?
That can work. Yeah.
I believe that is how that would work.
Thank you, Greg and Allison. Greg, does that mean you're seconding the motion?
Yeah, I second the motion.
Hey, thank you, Greg. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, which would mean we would be adding the stop to the route. Please raise your hand or say aye. Okay, I don't see any. Everyone opposed, which means we are not adding the stop to the route. Please raise your hand or say aye.
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 And I think that is everybody. Any abstentions?
We have two hands.
Actually, you got 4 in the room, so.
There you go.
All right, so that does not pass. So we will not be adding that route. Lori, is a proper way to go about this for you to let them know, or? For,
Mhm. I can do that, yes,
Okay, thank you so much.
sure.
Next, Wardsboro stop. So in the past, we've had some discussions about adding a stop at Upper Podunk, I believe it was. And for safety reasons, we decided not to. We received a request from Chad Storrow on the board to consider a stop at the Turkwood apartments. So I'm going to open that up for any discussion.
We sent 2 buses up there, 2 different drivers, 2 different buses, and they both came back saying that that's not safe at all, and they don't want to do it because you have to be crossways on the road to get turned around there, and it's a bad spot anyways. And right now there's no cars there from skiing, and he still had a hard time turning around. And then this past winter, when he was doing sports to mount snow, he came down over that hill right about there, and there's a tractor trailer jackknife right there, and he had to creep by it to get by it. It's just, we've discussed this several times before, and it doesn't work.
It's an extra 4 miles one way up there, which adds an extra 10 or 15 minutes, which means we'd have to change the time of all of our stops already. So we'd have a couple of kids getting on at 10 after 6 instead of like 20 after or so.
Plus, if he comes out of Stratton Arlington Road, has to go up that hill and it's slippery, that's not a good situation either. That hill is pretty steep coming up beyond Stratton.
I don't believe that Turkwood's going to be town maintained either. So.
Right.
No, it's
Yeah, that's
private property.
And the snowbanks can be way too high. Even if we were to turn around there, the snowbanks are going to be way too high for us to even see around. We've covered everything. Okay.
All right, sounds like safety concerns once again, which was sort of my impression having driven past there after our big snowfall a couple weeks ago. Any other thoughts on a possible Turkwood stop?
Do we know how many families were affected or were requesting this, or that was kind of a little gray, wasn't it?
Yeah, there had, maybe Tammy can speak to this. I believe there was a group that had requested the first stop at Podunk, and some may have been able to take advantage of Turkwood, but I'm not sure. Tammy?
Yeah, I think it was like 6 or 7 kids, maybe 3 or 4 families.
Okay, well, it's not nothing. You know, I drove by it too and looked at it. I think the turnaround, I would agree, is very dangerous. I'm just wondering if there's any other alternatives. So that is a large portion of the town from the Stratton Arlington Road all the way up to the town line. It's a big area of Wardsboro that's not covered by the bus. I don't know of any solutions. That doesn't appear to be one, but I'm wondering if there's any other solutions to get a bus a little further up into town. I don't think there is one, but I would just, you know, kind of try to, I mean, I know Chad tried to find out, you know, try to think of that as a turnaround. I don't think it's a good one either, but like I said, but I'm wondering if there's any other options.
Allison?
The other
We
comment.
drove up over there.
Hold on. Go ahead, Allison.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Lindsay. The other
Hi.
comment to piggyback on to Dwight there, is the one piece of it that's kind of a big deal as well, is that becomes the first stop once you cross into Wardsboro. So any students that you have who live in Dover who attend Wardsboro, there are a couple of them, us included, we would use that you hit that stop first if you need to continue on your day. So it just, you know, rather than coming all the way down Stratton Arlington, it takes off, you know, several minutes of your trip going down. So if there was a way to find another stop, and I know everybody's been working hard to do it, but just to piggyback on what Dwight said, there's that added level of, you know, of importance as well.
Well, you have the Dover bus stops at the end of Bluebrook Road for any of those students going to Dover. So that's our last, our outermost stop on Route 100 was the end of Bluebrook Road. So
Yeah.
Stratton Arlington Road, because of the hills and the corners, for safety reasons, we just don't go any further than that.
Yeah.
Dennis is the one that drives it. He's the one that, he went up with the bus he would normally drive. And he said, boy, he said, there's no way I dare do any of that up there. So I'm going on what he said. He's a good driver and he's always been good with us. And then Lindsay took a bus up just to see what she thought. And she's sitting right here, but she said the same thing, that it's just not a great place to be turning around. Dennis is worried about the truck traffic, especially when he's trying to pull back on Route 100, the way the trucks go down over that hill, that he's going to get hit.
Yeah.
Tammy, did you have anything?
I mean, I'm racking my brain for places to stop, and I agree with what Dave was saying. The safest place would be Bluebrook, but that would, that doesn't take away that hill part, which seems to be a driving force too in the safety factor for sure.
Well, and if we, as a Wardsboro bus, went all the way up to Bluebrook, that's an extra 20 minutes, for us. So we'd have to, again, change everybody's time for pickup and drop off.
I think you're muted, Lindsay.
No, it's not
muted. We can hear.
The other issue is going to be the budget. I mean, I can't do many miles more than what we're doing without changing the budget. That's like, how far is it, Dave, from Stratton Arlington Road to Bluebrook?
Dave and Matt, can you hear us?
If it was, what did you say? It was 4 miles, Lindsay?
We can't hear you guys at all here.
It's like 6 minutes.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like a 4 minute, 4 mile drive one way up to Turkwood. So my guess is probably 10.
Are you sure it wasn't 4 miles round trip? I think it's 2 miles.
1 point. He said it was like 1.3 up and 1.3 back.
Yeah.
It takes
So it's what, 2.5 or
to Stratton Arlington, because those are the 2 bus stops for my kids, and that's driving like a Connecticut bat out of hell person. So
I wouldn't expect anything less out of you.
he told me, he's got down, Dennis sent me an email and he said it's 3.8 miles from Stratton Arlington Road back to Stratton Arlington Road.
So that was to
it's,
Turkwood. So it's at least another mile plus to Blue Brook from Turkwood.
You're talking probably 5 miles up, 5 miles back.
Disconnected, you can bring yours over.
No, it's them.
Can you go into other towns without, like, and still be within your contract? Because you would have to go through Stratton and then Dover. Does that matter when you do bus routes?
It'd be up to the supervisor, yes, or however that works. Greg should know.
But obviously, the contract would have to go up because of the greater mileage.
Right.
Right. Yeah, generally that would just be, you know, we agree on the routes every year anyways, right? And what they are and what they need to be. That was part of the contract. And so if we expand that, yeah, we would have to make an allotment for whatever that change is. So.
Tell him you just Googled it.
In my time driving up and down that, the only place I saw that felt like it was semi-straight and wasn't either by a turn or on a fairly good incline was that Paradis Road. But again, that's a private road. And the last time I drove by that, it was covered in snow. Nobody had even plowed around it. And in the non-snow months, it's a nice lot that would be functional. It looked like, you know, at the bottom there, it opened up pretty big, but it's still like, you know, if no one's plowing it, then it's, you know, for 2/3 of the school year, it's non-functional for you all. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm playing around on a map here and I just don't see anything up that way that's truly functional for a bus. And just thinking about the immediate incline, right? Basically, once you go past Stratton, Arlington, you're heading uphill, you know, and so
Yeah.
that road quality drops pretty quick. As is, you're already dealing with your own weather patterns up there.
Matt?
Thanks, guys. Sorry, we lost our audio for a second. Can you just fill us in on what you all are contemplating at the moment? Because we missed like about 2 or 3 minutes of what you were talking about. Sorry.
So we are discussing trying to find something between Stratton Arlington Road and Blue Brook where we may be able to have a stop. And at this point, nobody can really come up with anything that would work, that would be safe.
Thank you.
The kids up, bring them down.
I mean, can I throw something out, Mark?
Please.
Would the mover be able to truck those kids that 4 miles from Blue Brook down to Stratton Arlington to help the families? I know the mover does a lot on that side of town, just to help out everybody.
You
I think
probably,
Dave has his hand up.
sorry.
Have you ever seen a mover go up that way in the morning during the run? Up through there. I don't know if it's a different time schedule probably, but I've never seen one in my bus run as far as our timing at Blue Brook Road or anything.
So I think we could, one second, Allison, I think we could send them a letter and ask them for sure whether that's something they'd be willing to do, but we'd have to remember that that's a public bus.
Right.
You know, that is a consideration that some parents may or may not even have any interest in that.
True.
Allison?
It's too bad Shannon isn't here because she had information on this at the last meeting. She talked about they're not able to contract that way simply because they're a public service and they couldn't guarantee seats. So what would open for some student, you know, it might be open one day and not open the next day. And so they weren't able to do things like that because of what they are as an entity. And that's
right. The only reason I threw that out there is mornings when I go to pick up my kiddos on the Jamaica Wardsboro line, I quite often see a mover bus that's like demand response, and they're just kind of sitting on the edge of the road. So I didn't know, you know, what that would entail.
That may be their accessoride service. I don't know what it's called in Vermont. In New York, it's called this accessoride. They're kind of on-demand service. But as Allison said, we wouldn't be able to contract with them. It would just be whether we would be willing to extend their public route further north on 100, but then, you know, seats availability, and then, you know, who else is on the bus we'd have no control over. Allison?
It
scares me.
That whole thing happens right in front of my front window randomly, and it's too early as well. I see Lindsay go by, and I see the mover there as well. It would be too, the timing wouldn't be right for that particular. It's a great suggestion. I just don't know that that particular bus would necessarily work.
Plus, you'd have to have 2 different runs for it. You got the high
Right.
school, and then you got the elementary school. So chances of them doing both would be slim to none, probably.
Good point.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he must be a good, once you leave Stratton Arlington Road to get to Leland and Gray and back again, you must be talking 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a long ways. So be like a 45-minute gap for the mover, I would think. And it doesn't make it any safer either by using the mover bus, probably.
They'd have to find a place to turn around also.
Right. They could turn around Stratton Arlington Road probably, but then they still got to try to go back up over the hill too. So
Right.
it's just we've discussed this like, I don't know how many times lately, and it's not getting any better. That's for sure. I don't know. The driver pretty much said if he has to go up there, he may not drive again. That's how much he feels against it. And he's a good driver. I don't need to lose any more drivers. I'm down to just enough to cover the buses I got. So
No, we
anybody out
definitely
there
don't.
want to driver, get a hold of me.
We
We're
definitely don't
hiring.
want you losing any more drivers.
Yeah,
And
lost quite a few.
as, sorry, Dad, go ahead.
I said I've lost quite a few drivers lately due to illness or being hurt or just not being able to afford to be there. So I don't really need to lose any more. All you guys get your licenses, I'll hire you.
I think Allison's volunteering.
Yeah, no,
Very
I
nice. Thank you.
because we do keep talking about this, and it really has been exhausted at this point simply because, you know, there doesn't seem to be a way to get up Stratton Arlington Road. Can we do something just to move it, like create maybe, I don't know whether it's a Facebook group or do something to create maybe a carpool, something that people can sign up for, just so that we don't keep going back and saying, no, we have nothing, but you know, we've exhausted every effort. We're not going to take the bus up Stratton Arlington Road. We can't do it from a budgetary or safety standpoint, but here is another means of figuring something out. Can we do something like?
I don't think the district can do that. Nothing would stop a parent from doing that though.
Right. I didn't know if maybe like Wardsboro could do that.
Maybe the school club, but I think that would be outside the purview of administration or the board. But I agree. I think we have kind of exhausted this conversation. You know, we had a board member that wanted us to talk about Turkwood, so I think we have. Unless anybody else has any other thoughts, because I really do think that we've kind of gone through all the options, and there doesn't seem to be one at this point. So unless somebody else has something more, I'm going to suggest we move on. All good with that?
Mhm.
Yeah, very
Dwight,
good.
did you have something?
No, I just want to thank everyone for just putting their heads together. We're probably not the first group to do this. It's probably been discussed for years and years. So, and they probably all came to the same conclusion. So, but thank you.
Yeah, I'd like
Well,
to
now
thank
it's on
everybody
video.
for-
They can just go back to the videotape and see the discussion now rather than having to go through it again. Okay, so yeah, as Dwight said, thank you very much. We really appreciate everybody putting their ideas on the table and working through this. Obviously, safety is our primary concern, and we don't want to do anything that's going to put our kids at any risk at all. So thank you. So we will move on from that. Allison, I didn't know if you had any follow-up on.
You need a motion for that last thing?
No, I don't think so, because this wasn't an actual request from a parent. This was kind of a follow-up to our previous discussion. So unless somebody wants to make a motion, I'm comfortable with not having one.
Could we make a motion that Stratton Arlington Road, until something becomes paved, is the end of the bus route, you know, so that if people in the future ask, it's like, hey, listen, no, we've agreed as a transportation committee that at this point, right, we've looked at over and over on more than one request that, it, you know, unless somebody comes up with a paved turnaround that's going to be plowed and have snowbanks knocked down, you know, that there's just nothing past Stratton Arlington Road that makes sense for a school bus to turn around.
We definitely can have a motion like that, if you all want.
So
I'm in the 2 out of 3.
That would have, right?
What was that?
That have to be warned.
No, because the Turkwood discussion was on here. So
Okay.
it would, the disadvantage to doing that through a motion is that to undo it, it's going to require the committee to get together with another motion to undo it versus, you know, just having a discussion about bus routes and stuff. I don't, unless a developer is going to come along and open something up, I don't know that we're going to be in a position to even, you know, have this discussion again for quite some time. But I will be happy to entertain that motion if you all want.
No, the point of what you'd have to do to undo it made a lot of sense, Mark.
Okay. All right. So again, thank you. We will, as long as I am here and still chairing this committee, we were not going to bring this up for discussion again unless there's an actual viable solution. So you have my word on that. So we'll move on to number 7. Allison, I hate putting this on you. I didn't know if you had any additional information with your discussions with BRSU, or if that just kind of.
No, I had, the last I had left off with Derek Chalmers over at the BRSU was that they do have some space on their bus. They would not be amending the bus route at this time. It would be a much greater discussion if you had a definitive amount of students that you wanted to transport, and that they would entertain whatever we brought to the table for a request. So if we wanted to, we would probably would have needed to go in before budget time. But if we want to come up with a figure of what we were looking for how many students is really what we would need to know. They had 13 seats in with regularity. And that was this past year. But if we wanted to, we would need to come up with the actual student head count that we would need for that. And that services Winhall, Mountain School at Winhall. It would service MEMS, BBA, and there's actually a Long Trail transfer situation that happens as well. So it would open up Long Trail as well. So we would just need to come up with what those numbers were and present it to them for consideration.
And the part of the problem is it's hard to do that before budget season because we don't actually know how many students are going to be heading that direction or how many of them are going to want transportation until the beginning of the year. What I'm going to suggest is that I had number 8 on the agenda is just to put together a list of agenda items for the next fiscal year. I'm going to suggest we add this to that and consider putting a formal proposal together at that time to give to the BRSU and see what they can do at that point. How does that sound to people?
Yeah, I have something I'd like to add.
Please.
To the agenda, to a future agenda anyways. So I met recently, I've had a couple of phone conversations with Kuzmeskis down in Brattleboro. This is pertinent to the Dover route of picking their kids up. Because we were talking about next year. We met at a point to talk about next year having the Dover students actually access Wyndham Southeast bus routes out to Maple Valley and having Dave pick them up at Maple Valley instead of going to Newbrook. This cuts out the need for Todd to have a bus there because Todd currently doesn't have a well, West River currently I think they have one kid that's going there. And so at that point, West River would grab that one kid, but it lightens his load with his struggle to find drivers. And it's Leland and Gray is looking to add potentially 2 routes in the afternoon for their kids. It's long and convoluted, but either way, I'm having a hard time getting Kosmeskis to have space on a bus. That's what, when Allison said that's what triggered me, was their bus going out to Maple Valley does not have room right now. I am trying to push them to say, hey, these kids are paying tuition. They should have access to a bus just like a kid who lived, if 10 kids moved out past Maple Valley, they'd have to bring them, So I'm kind of trying to push them on that. So maybe having that on our agenda just as something to update would be good, just to kind of keep on the loop as to where we're at with trying to make that happen.
We do have roughly 40 students that go to Brattleboro?
And Dave said it's 18 to like 22 kids. So it is quite a few. What's a bummer is the route that the high school currently uses is that goes out that way also brings a bunch of kids downtown because it drives right through town. So that's why they have so many on it, but they only have them on it for 10 minutes, because when you see that bus going out Route 30, there's 4 kids on it. And so I'm trying to push them a little bit to like, hey, I feel like you could find another that, it'd be easy enough for you all on your like 15 bus routes to find another bus to take kids downtown to free that up for them. But I got to do that through Frank, and everyone knows how fun it is to get a hold of him if you've ever tried.
Well, I'll definitely put that on the list to continue in FY24 discussion. Allison, did you have?
No, I was trying to figure out what Greg was talking about. I was just following him with crazy Italian. Sorry.
Sorry, it's just kind of rerouting what Dave does in the afternoon. Right now, Dave goes down to Newbrook at the end of the day and picks up Dover kids that come up from a West River bus. But what we've realized is that there's a Wyndham Southeast bus driving all the way to Maple Valley. So in the amount of time Dave's coming over Grimes Hill, if he just went down the other way and then cruise down there, it'd really only be a couple more minutes for him, as long as we can time it out when those kids get out there. But now I'm just struggling with finding the bus to have enough seating for them. I didn't realize it was quite that many kids, which is good. I mean, it's great that there is, but so now it's just kind of figuring out a way to kind of press Wyndham Southeast and Travel Cuz to maybe modify their routes a little bit to meet our kids' needs, which I think that considering we're paying, we should be able to hopefully do that. I don't know how much pull we'll have, but we're going to try.
You always seem to have a lot of pull with people, Greg, so.
They just want me to stop talking.
Well, then keep talking to them at least.
This is a question for Allison. So Allison, you're saying that there are some spots on the current bus, and if I understand you correctly, and then if we need to come back to them with a number, and based on that number, they may increase the size of the bus, or is that kind of what they're looking to do?
No, they said they would consider anything we brought to them. At this point, it would literally mean potentially opening up another bus entirely, getting another bus driver. It's probably not a reality, but they might be able to consider it. We might be able to do a lottery system or something like that. But it was 13 seats that were currently there, and that changes yearly, and they would consider anything we brought to them.
Right, obviously, as long as we pay.
Yeah.
So,
right. And Dwight, you had asked if we could get a contract price for those 13 seats or something, discounted.
Contracted price, right? And I think we also talked about maybe, so in preparation for what Mark's saying, if we're going to put some kind of proposal, we need to figure out the numbers of how many people would actually, use it, right?
So Stratton has a blanket, we have a blanket contract with them for as many students as who want to ride. They just basically guarantee that, they'll service the kids for us, and we pay $25K a year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I hate to be the stinker to bring this up, but I'm wondering, just because we have run into this in Stratton. The second you say yes to offering busing, you are now saying yes to offering busing everywhere. And I just because we've learned from it, I would caution you that even entering into this sort of mindset of busing to these private schools is going to open us up to a lot of, I mean, you've got Charlemont, you've got Vermont Academy, you have all sorts of, you know what I mean? You guys are already jumping through hoops, busing kids down to Brattleboro, which is amazing. But this is, I mean, that's a haul out that way. And once you say yes, that's like a Pandora's box that you may not be able to put the lid back on.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think just getting, if you glom onto an existing bus, that's just the bus that we have, you know, if that route already exists, and that's, you know what I mean? So just use that one rather than opening up our own routes, then it opens up a whole Pandora's box.
And that route's already open to parents, and there are families that are on it. So it's just, the difference is they're paying the 800 or rough, I think it was 800 a year, something like that, versus the district paying for it.
Right. Yeah.
Any other topics that people think would be good to add on a list of ones for FY24 to discuss?
Was there more discussion on the electric bus or no? Because that was on the last- that's
That was
done.
yeah. Dwight and Greg were going to be working on that. I was going to add that to the list
Yeah,
automatically.
Greg and I haven't done a whole lot, but I've done a little bit of research. I reached out to someone in the West River area who they were looking to get a bus and possibly join on with them, but it's very preliminary. Maybe you might have a little more information on how that's going, Greg, so I really don't know what's happening up there with that situation.
It's a difficult issue to attack at this point, right? You know, because there's just so many pieces at play as far as, right, West River is a contractor, right? I mean, you don't necessarily have the right to tell your contractors what kind of tools they have to use. You know, when we contract with them, we contract routes.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't tell a builder he has to run Makita tools, you know, or that he can't run a generator, you know, that, you know what I mean? Like, I just wouldn't. I'm contracting a job to be done. So, and we're in the middle of a 5-year contract. I met with Paul Patus, who's been heading up the West River thing. I actually, you all might want to be mad at me for this, but I actually told Paul that I believe his path forward would be to request that the WCSU not necessarily abolish this committee, but modify this committee to be an SU committee, something that represents the whole district. And I said, and then you could request a seat on that committee, right? Because I just don't think we would need 2 of them. But that way we would have, I mean, because if you think about it, Todd's here. So we have all the West River people already here. You would add maybe Paul. But I was like, and then you could be part of the maybe shaping of transportation for the area moving forward, because I know River Valleys has an interest in it. Marlboro just bought a new bus as well, but they've got a couple of more that are coming up. And so, you know, I just felt like that was his best path forward as far as trying to be heard. And you know what I mean? I think that they think they can get this contract nullified somehow or something, which is just not going to happen. The head of the committee reached out and just was like, oh, why wasn't Highland Electric allowed to bid? And we said, because they want to sell people buses. They don't want to do busing. Like, we put out a bid for a busing contract to take our kids to school. That's different than what Highland does.
Right.
So, you know, which is fine. You know, I understand the request. But so, you know what I mean? So there's just it's just tough, you know, I mean, and the other piece is having a shop in an area big enough with the right amount of power there. You know, we still need to figure that out. What kind of power source do we need? Do we need a heated garage for these buses? You know, electric cars are losing 15 to 30% of their range in sub 32 weather.
Yeah, it looks like we missed out on the last grant, the federal grant. I think Bennington was successful in getting three, I believe, buses for free with the infrastructure to charge it and the whole 9 yards, which is worth a ton of money, over 150, well, close to 300 a vehicle, I believe, 300,000. Anyhow, I think we missed that boat. So anyway, and I understand what you're saying too, Greg. We're not going to force anyone to use a specific vehicle if we're contracting with them. I'm not suggesting that in any way either. Yeah. I know the River Valleys, obviously, we purchase our vehicles for use as opposed to contracting. So that's a little bit different. So it's, maybe there's apples and oranges there, so they're not really, a bit of a different mix.
So there is,
Greg?
but the that you run into that we ran into with Highland was they initially didn't want to do business unless we were talking about
Yeah.
10 buses.
Yeah,
Like they wanted a legitimate
right.
infrastructure commitment.
Yeah.
And-
Well,
And they sold
So-
people that they could do all the grant paperwork, and that was not true either, because you have to have a sam.gov sign in to do that. And immediately it became on me and Liz Francis at central office to fill out all the grant request stuff. And so that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I guess I was referring more to their situation than yours. I totally understand your situation, Dwight.
Yeah. yeah.
And
I think Mark's gonna want to move this along. We should probably take
Yeah.
this conversation
What I'm-
outside the meeting.
What I'm going to say is, Greg, I'm going to suggest that you ask Bill/Bob, our outgoing and incoming superintendents, whether suggest to them that they have an SU transportation committee. I mean, technically, transportation is an SU job. So I think it might make sense to have an SU transportation committee.
yeah, that was my recommendation to Paul was to request one be formed at the SU level, at an SU meeting, to go to a WCSU meeting and request that they have one formed, because I said River Valleys has one and it functions really well. It gives us the opportunity to review routes and review requests by parents and so like I see the value of this committee and so my advice to him was, hey, there is some value to it and one existing for everyone would make a lot of sense.
Let's see what the superintendents think, since that's their ball of wax.
Yeah, but I would add it to the agenda, Mark, just so in case I have some more information for next time. But
Yeah, I have the electric buses on for whenever we meet again. Definitely. The other thing I was just thinking as you talking about Bennington's relatively flat, especially compared to us out here. And I think even to some extent West River is flat compared to us. So I think that the capabilities of the buses would definitely come into play. But technology is changing all the time. So any other committee business? Anybody else have any other routes or stops or
Hey, Mark.
anything else? Matt.
Yeah, I just see a note from one of our parents on December 19th to the board asking for a stop. And I don't see any minutes in the folder since I think it was maybe September. And I just don't want to let this fall off the table. Do you have record of that by any chance?
Is that the 76 Route 100 stop?
No, that was the Captain Copeland Road in Dover.
I don't think I knew about that.
I feel like I just won. What was that?
That was my phone telling you that
Oh.
you just won $10,000.
I was gonna like.
But yeah,
pull my
but
head
you only get $1 every 20 years. So
off. Yeah, this was a note that came to me on December 19th. I forwarded it to the board on the 19th. And I believe it was discussed that night, although I haven't looked back through the minutes. It doesn't pop up. So I just want to make sure we don't lose that request on our radar.
it doesn't ring a bell. Can you forward that to me again?
I will. Yeah. You want,
Thank you.
Is it probably not appropriate to bring it up now since it wasn't on the agenda?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Mark,
and it just-
can I bring something up as well, since we're talking about bus routes and stuff?
Please.
This year, we've had a lot of trouble due to road conditions, snow, you name it, getting down the South Wardsboro Road. We had a student who lives on the Newfane side of it, and he's there every other week. And we've had to, especially during the last big storm we had to have him come down to Newfane Village. But we do have two out on the South Wardsboro Road, and due to road conditions, we've been struggling to get a bus out there
we've been turning around a Cobb Reed Road, not doing the dirt.
Yeah, not doing the dirt, staying right on the
Because
pavement.
it's so rough, it's killing the bus. So just want to give you an FYI. So if parents call, that's why we're doing it till they can get a chance to grade the road up again. We'll probably be staying off of the dirt section as much as we can. Dennis said that it's just killing the front end of that bus. It gets so rough out through there. So,
And the one parent that we do have constantly, she's been really open to it since we're not really excluding her kid. We're making things work. So she's been really responsive to it, but we just wanted you to be aware of it.
Great, and thank you for working that out with the families. That adds a fair amount of time to your trip, I think, doesn't it?
yeah, but that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's Mother Nature at her best. So we just try to work around it. Greg's
So we really
known about it for a while. We bring it up
really
to him
appreciate that.
when we have to do that. So
Okay, thank you.
he's trying to win more money.
Matt wants more money.
Preparing for the next round of negotiations, huh? Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, just a quick note that since I think it's Wednesdays that Dave is driving all the way to Brattleboro now. Is that right, Todd? Wednesday mornings?
Yeah.
Leland and Gray's doing that double run.
Because are they doing the double afternoon run already?
No,
No,
so
just
Leon and
mornings.
Gray is doing PBL Wednesdays. So they don't technically start school until 9:45. So literally we have to do 3 runs on Wednesday mornings. And right now, due to medical, we've lost a driver. So we don't have a bus or a driver to get kids down to Brattleboro. So we do appreciate Dave doing that.
So I just want to make sure that we bring that up because I think West River is making a heroic effort to accommodate the learning, the change. And also it's a sacrifice too for Dave and Dover, particularly in the custodial hours that are lost during that extra run. So just another thing to keep in our hat of things that the Transportation Committee is juggling. That I'm not sure that's a great solution. It's working now. Dave doesn't mind driving it, but it's like, wow, that's a lot of buses going to Brattleboro several times a day just want to make sure that investment is, the right one for all of our kids and stuff.
22 students is good.
Yeah. Dave
So is
said,
that Dave?
he said 18 to 22 students is a typical morning run for that Brat run, for the Dover side anyway.
Is there isn't a separate run from Wardsboro, is there?
I don't.
No, so we have one student who's going down to Brattleboro right now, that I do believe Dave is picking up at Newbrook. She gets on the bus for Leland and Gray kids and rides around. And then when the bus goes down to Newbrook to drop kids off, that student gets off and gets on with Dave. And then that bus goes back and does their second Leland and Gray run.
Okay.
Our driver broke her femur. That's why we're in a bind. As soon as she gets back, if she does get back, we will switch it back again.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have to do it. We're waiting for her to heal up. So
You actually have 2 students that are down there. There's a boy and a girl that ride the bus in the afternoon anyway. I've seen them before. So.
All right.
no,
You
luckily
may be
Dave's
picking
good.
up someone that's not an actually student, Dave.
They like the shop in Brattleboro, I guess. That's what it is.
It's the Dover mover.
Yeah, the Dover move.
No, we appreciate Matt and Dave working with us to get this to work. So
Mhm.
without him doing that, we wouldn't be able to do Wednesday. So
All Dave. I'm just cheering him on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We really appreciate all of you putting in the time and effort and working through these situations so that our students are getting the best service possible, and quite honestly, probably some of the best service in the state. So thank you. Anything else? Sounds like we may have another Dover stop to discuss at some point in the near future. We'll take a look at that. Otherwise, probably probably schedule something for sometime after reorganization. So maybe in May, to start looking at the list of things that we had on the agenda for FY24.
You know where the bus stop is, just so we can look at it before the meeting?
Matt said something about Captain Copeland Road
Captain
Do you have a-
Copeland over Hill.
and
Yes.
Dover Hill.
At the
I
intersection?
think, I actually think that's a feasible stop, be honest with you.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, I've been with the fire department, had more accidents there than anywhere else in town. I would think the only feasible stop that you would have be at the end of Higley Hill down in there, Captain Copeland and Higley Hill, but that's going down, turning around and coming back up and getting back on the Dover Road again. So, you know, that we do have bus stops on either end. There's one at the school here, they can get on here, town hall or the fire station. I mean, so there's other options, you know, without going down that road.
Where is
Well-
that student going?
Here, they have 2 students here.
And they're asking for a pickup at the end of Copeland where it comes to Dover Hill.
Yeah.
That was their request.
Okay, that's not the request.
No.
No, that's not the request. That was a request a while ago, but that was declined. Let me just get to the email. Do you want to hear it now or do you want to hear it later?
I think it's something that needs to be warned in case the family wants to chime in. I mean, that location makes no sense to me, and I don't know, on 10 different levels, but
Yeah, that's not the location, so let that go. It's not Dover Hill.
okay.
That's a terrible spot. It's down, they want the bus to go down Captain Copeland to Yaw Road, which is a T off at the bottom, and have a stop down at the bottom of the T, and have the bus turn left to go back out to Dover Hill. That's
So
my
that means continuing down Captain Copeland where it turns into dirt and beyond
Yes.
that.
Maybe. Dave says yes.
So
He knows
I
very
would-
well.
That would be coming off Dover Hill Road, down Captain Copeland Road to meet Yar Road.
Yeah.
It's dirt on Yar Road anyway. Down through the hollow down there, and then back on the Dover Hill just before the sharp corner by Taft Brook Road.
That's not so
Perfect
bad.
place to be turning onto the road in icy weather. All right, let's
He used to live there. Yeah.
let's we'll Matt send me that request and we'll take it from there.
Yes, I will.
I don't want to keep people too long now, and it's really not a decision that we can make at this point. So thank you, everybody. I think we can end there unless anybody else has anything else.
Oh,
Nope.
I did just want to
Greg.
ask real quick, by the way, on that email you sent out with the parents' request for that stop for Dover, they also asked about a pre-K student on the bus. How did that end?
I forget what our pre-K policy is.
We don't put the on the bus.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So yeah, we tried transporting pre-K a few years ago, Greg, and we had to put an aid on the bus because they would fall off the seats when the bus hit the brakes because their little feet don't hit the floor.
Yeah.
So
No.
that was an issue. But I think Tammy can correct me on this, but I think if they reach the age of 5, that other pre-K programs have allowed kids to ride the bus, and that our CDD minimums and staffing no longer apply because they're aged 5. Is that right, Tammy?
Yeah, we once they turn 5, we have the parents sign off giving their permission for the students to ride. It's actually yes, 5 years old is what we've done here at Wardsboro.
So this is actually nice that you brought it up because it's different in Wardsboro and Dover. It would be nice to get on the same page and have the same service. Maybe that's an FY24 goal.
That was something we discussed at a board meeting, probably many months ago at this point, but it does make sense to have to write that into our transportation policy.
Yeah, I
so
think it was
that-
a policy meeting, Mark, not a board meeting.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
If you share that policy with me, I would love to see that. We also had a crazy debacle with that in West River this year. So that would be, I would love to see that policy.
I don't know if we actually added anything to the policy. I'd have to go back and look. I think it was just a discussion that we started having, if I remember correctly. But
That's correct.
Greg, I'll send you our current transportation policy just so that you have it.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
But I will add that to the list for both the policy and the transportation committees for FY24. Anybody else want to add anything else?
And another thing, yeah.
I move we adjourn.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. Everybody, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.